Hello, so today I'm going to do a video, a comprehensive one, to answer a question that I keep getting asked again and again and again, and a fundamental concept that people need to understand when they're going to do subleasing in Dubai or anywhere in the world. So what is subleasing? Subleasing is the art of acquiring a property, leasing a property on a long-term basis, so a year or 2 years or 3 years, and then subleasing it on a daily basis. So you're buying wholesale at price, which should be discounted because you're buying long-term, leasing long-term, and then you're subleasing it on a short-term basis, and then the profit is the arbitrage between the short-term and the long-term rate, and that's how you make money in subleasing. So the biggest question that people ask me when they want to do this is how to identify a property that is going to make a profit, right? And then how much money is required to acquire that property, lease that property, furnish that property, and then how do you price that property to make that profit, and what is the margin? These are the fundamental questions. So I'm going to answer that today, and I'm going to show you how it's done using a spreadsheet. So what we do is for instance, let's say we want to get a 3-bedroom in downtown Dubai. This is just for argument's sake. These are standard numbers for a 3-bedroom in downtown Dubai. We want to know, is it going to be profitable? Yeah. So a 3-bedroom in downtown Dubai, the rental amount is approximately 270,000 dirhams a year. The landlord wants 3 checks, so you've got to pay him 90,000 up front. Now when you get that property, there will be a deposit paid to the landlord of 5% and a commission paid 5% to the agent, so that's another cost. Then your furnishing cost for this particular unit, the furnishing cost was 80,000. So your initial cost of acquiring that unit is 197,000, which is your first check, your deposit, your commission, and the cost of furnishing it. Then you may have some miscellaneous costs like an electricity deposit, your photography, your ijari if you're doing it in Dubai, and a DTCM permit to be able to short-term rent it. So your total cost to rent that unit and get it ready is 202,000. That's your upfront cost. Now once you've done that, you're able to put it on Airbnb or booking.com to start, or whatever the portals that you're using, to start getting daily guests. Now, we know what the costs are to get started. Now we need to work out, is this property, a 3-bedroom in downtown with a Burj Khalifa view, going to be profitable? And how do we work that out? What we do is we go onto Airbnb and we find similar properties in the same building or in similar close buildings with the same views, the same sizes. And then we look at their Airbnb calendars and their booking.com calendars, and we write down what is the average daily rate for every month for 12 months into the future, because the calendars are open and you can see the pricing. So we know, for instance, for January, for this kind of property, the average daily rate is 1,988 for this unit, 1,903 for this unit, 1,725 for this unit. So the average for January is 1,872 based on what's available. And then we do that for February, March, April, May. Now Dubai is seasonal, so summer months are slow and winter months are much more popular. So every month you will have an average daily rate that you can earn on that property. So once we know that, and then we multiply that average daily rate by the number of days in that month, we get a total. So in January, 56,000, 58,000, 42,000. So every month we know if we're at 30 days occupancy with the average daily rate that we got from looking at multiple competition. Here we've got 5. I would go 8, 9, as many as I could find, put all the averages in, get the average of all the averages, multiply them by the number of days in a year, and you know what is the total income potential at 100% occupancy. We know we're not going to get 100% occupancy. Let's assume that we get 80% occupancy, which is a Dubai average. It's different for every city in the world. So with a total 100% occupancy, the income would be 652,000. With an 80% occupancy, it's 521,000 in this scenario. After getting that income at 80% occupancy, we have to pay Airbnb, which is 15%. Then we have to pay our rent, which is 272,000. Then our furnishings, which was approximately 80,000. Then our operational expenses. So operational expenses are going to be our electricity, our Wi-Fi, our gas, some maintenance costs, some cleaning costs. We can work that out. In this particular scenario, it's about 60,000 a year. Then the other expense of the commission and the deposits. And we see that after all of that, there's a profit of 16,679 over a period of a year. So that is a good product. That is a good property, because that 16,000 profit will be on top of the 202,000 that you invested, because that will have come back and you've made a profit. So now this property within 12 months has brought all your investment back and is now paying for itself with the money from the guests. And 1 year, then that money that comes in, you can put into a new property. And in the following year, you don't have to pay for the furnishings because they're already there. Those furnishings should last 3 years at least. So every year that you keep that property or going forward, you're making a profit and your initial investment is out. Now in Dubai, if you can get your money out between 12 to 18 months, a year, year and a half, I think that's a good business. And then you can invest into more. In other cities in the world, like London, Birmingham in the UK, you can get your money out in about 10 months. In some cities, you can even do it in 6 months. It isn't only about how quickly you get your money back. It's also about the tax. In England, they have now increased the VAT from 5% for subleases to 20%, which eats into all your profits. So even though you're getting your money back, you're not getting a profit because the government taxes you so much. So you have to look at, number one, is it profitable if I take this property? Will I get my money back? How long will it take me to get my money back? How much tax do I have to pay on my profits? And after looking at all of that, then you make a calculated decision based on numbers on whether the property that you're going to take is actually profitable or not. Right? Now, depending on where you're going to do this in the world, there are incorporation costs. In Dubai, to set up a license to be able to do this, it's approximately 30,000 dirhams. So you need to make that 30,000 dirhams. If you put 30,000 and you minus 16, you've lost 15,000. So one unit is not enough. Maybe you need 2 units to break even to cover your infrastructure costs. And then there may be some other costs that are also applicable. Now, if we were to do this scenario and we found that at the end of the year we were losing 100,000 and we carried on the spreadsheet for another 6 months and we were still in loss, we would know that that is a property that we don't want to take, because that property will never cash flow positive. And if you're looking at properties and you can't find comparisons, don't take them, because you're gambling. You can't take properties unless you have comparisons and data that you can cross-check. And you must be able to cross-check the data. On average, a rule of thumb is whatever the rent you're paying per year for the unit, which is 272,000 here, you should be generating approximately a 1.7, 1.8 multiple of that in your revenue from your Airbnb. So that means here we're seeing that we're getting 521,000 is the income on this property at 80% occupied based on these numbers, which is almost 272 times 2 is about a 1.7 multiple. So it makes sense, makes a profit. If it's less than 1.7, it's an issue, you're not going to break even. If it's more than 1.7, 2 and above, it's a great option. So in Dubai, you don't want to do this on a low level, on a smaller level, because the smaller units will not give you a profit. You want to go for the luxury units in the high tourist locations. The bigger the better, the more beds you can sit in there with the best views. If it's in, wherever the location, you want to be having the absolute best views. If it's near the beach, you want sea views. If it's in downtown, you want the Dubai Mall, Burj Khalifa view. Wherever it is in the world, you want to be looking for the locations where the views are the best and the unit is closest to the amenities that people want to visit, and the building is nice and clean and has facilities and amenities, or the house or whatever it is comes with lots of amenities, and then you make the decision based upon the numbers, right? So if you don't have a certain amount of money and the ability to wait a year and a half at least to get make your profits and get your money back, I would not recommend subleasing. Subleasing is for those people who have attention to detail, look at the numbers, have the ability to wait for their returns. In Dubai, I recommend you shouldn't even start for less than 250,000. To get a unit like this, plus pay your license, you're going to need 250,000. And then if you need help from somebody to learn how to do it, you're going to need more than 250,000. If you're doing it for anything less, there's a high chance that you're going to fail. And I don't want you to lose your money. In other cities in the world, you can do it for far less because the upfront costs are less. For example, in Dubai, you have to pay 3 months rent in advance, sometimes 4 months rent in advance. Then you have to pay 1 month's deposit. Then you have to pay 5% deposit, sometimes 10% deposit if it's furnished. Then you have to pay 5% agent's fee. Whereas in England, you can pay 1 month's rent in advance, no agent's fee, and 1 month's deposit. So the upfront cost is far less, which means it takes far less time to get that money back. So you're in profit quicker. However, the taxation is higher. So you have to weigh up the odds. And also, you want to be in cities where the laws regarding doing this business are clear. They're not grey. They can't shut you down tomorrow. For instance, in London, there's a 90-day Airbnb law by the government. You cannot put a property on Airbnb for more than 90 days in London, which makes it, a horrible place to do it. Whereas other places in the world, the government has very clear legislation like it does in Dubai, where they're very pro-tourism, pro-short-term rentals, and those areas are better. You can get that information by going onto portals like AirDNA, where it gives you a ranking of the city and how well that city is for doing Airbnb and how well properties are performing there. But this is just an email, this is just a post to make it clear on how to find profitable subleasing properties and how much money, how you calculate if a property is going to make you a profit or not. If you don't have that kind of money and you can't do that, there is another way to make money in this business, and that is by managing properties for landlords. So when you're managing a property for a landlord, you don't have to rent it off them. They will give it to you, they will furnish it, you will do all the listings on Airbnb and pricing, and you'll do the cleaning and the maintenance and organize all of that, the guest relations, the check-in, the check-out, etc. And you will take between 10 to 20 to 25% of the revenue. And for that, you don't need to invest all this money in renting a property, furnishing a property. You only have to invest in the marketing to be able to acquire that landlord. And then you're taking anything from 10 to 25% management fee off the revenue that you generate then. And that doesn't cost as much. And maybe that's a better place to start if you don't have this kind of liquidity. So I advise that maybe to learn, and if your liquidity levels are low, is you learn how to be an Airbnb or a short-term rental manager and manage other people's properties so that you don't have to spend a lot of money and you can make a lot of money by doing that and adding on more and more properties as you go along. So those are the two options. If you have any questions or want more information or want a template of this kind of spreadsheet so that you can do your own numbers, get in touch with us.